instead of going in and talking about how much time they're going to save and how much more work they're going to be able to get done, and they're going to be going, oh great, this just means I got to work harder.
I think when you can get them to understand the value behind it and how it's not just for business, they're open to it, and they have to be open.
Give them some quick wins that allow them to go, hang on, I actually can have a little more time. I can think a little bit more. I can maybe grab an extra cup of coffee or not feel quite so stressed at the end of the day.
So I think when you frame it in a way where it's almost like this is going to make your life so much better, they get excited, right?
That's going to allow any business that does that to lead your pack, to basically be leading up, not only because you're able to do a better job for your customers, but also because you're creating a better work environment for your team.
As it continues to grow and get better, you just learn with it. And then you got to share it with your team. Like a lot of people, they don't do that. It's almost like, what if I train them and they leave? What if you don't train them and they stay?
Hi, and welcome to the AI Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Mast, and today I've got with me Travis Mong. Travis and I have got to know each other through some of my trainings and communities that I run in that, and through some of those discussions, I thought, Travis, we need to bring you on the podcast and just share some of your story. Love your values, love what you've been doing in business. Travis, for those that are not as familiar with you as maybe I am, can you share a little bit about yourself and who you serve?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, Travis Mong. Second generation business owner. My family started a home service business probably since 1975. It's going on 50 years now. And been in the trades since I was a kid. Started with my dad in the field. And just purchased the business about 5 years ago. And I'm super excited because we've had a great launch. Things the last couple of years have really been booming. Incorporate a lot of things with AI, which has been fun. And I love the Lord. Jesus has been a huge part of my life. I've had some setbacks with my health, but I've been able to overcome them and been blessed, and I'm really happy to be on here. So thanks, Jonathan.
No, I love that. That's awesome to hear. And as I said, kind of in the pre-show, these tend to be conversational. I'm so excited to unpack some of your history. And I know you've been integrating AI. And of course, we love chatting about, to me, I feel sometimes I live in this echo chamber. Everybody I talk to uses AI and talks about AI, but I know that's not necessarily so common when we get out in the real world. Even last week, I was at a mastermind event with some incredibly successful entrepreneurs. And in that room, only about 60% of the people were even themselves using it, let alone in their companies. And historically, if we believe the stats, only about 20% of the businesses in the world are using AI on a regular basis. But before we dive into that, Travis, tell us a little bit about your business. You're second generation. That's something so many of us as entrepreneurs would love to create that type of legacy. Can you give us just a little background? You said, if I remember, you said 75 when things started. How did that go? And I'd love to hear your perspective as second generation. How did that transition go, taking over from your father who founded things?
Sure. I mean, obviously there were some challenges, right? So second generation, sometimes you want to, implement some things and, make some changes. And, I think that, I have a very supportive wife that, was behind me on some of the things that I wanted to do. And a lot of amazing people at the office that are still there today have been, with me through some of the changes as well. And, I'm super, super blessed to have those people. And I think when you have everybody running in the same direction as you with your, the new vision of the company and just some of the things that change, I think the whole business starts to come up and grow together as a family. So we've been blessed. We acquired 2 other companies as well. And this just continues to grow from there. So
Love that. Love that. And you've mentioned you started to bring AI into that. I'm curious. I know you love it because you and I have had that conversation, but how has your team reacted? Sometimes when we talk to businesses, it's not so much the leadership, it's the team that gets worried about it. How has your team been, and how has that introduction to AI worked for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a couple of things that I've done with that is obviously ChatGPT is probably the biggest thing I'm having them use now. One of the things that I've done, I've talked to them about, just on their phone, instead of them like having it right on the bottom, like right on the screen, like at the first part of your phone, have the ChatGPT right easy to get to, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
start using it on a regular basis. And I also have them just kind of use in their everyday life, just to show them like how they can, do it at home and like, how to fix things and just odds and ends. So I get them to kind of buy in to it, not only just for work purposes, but for the personal side.
I
And
love
now they're
that.
kind of used to using that and their personal side. And all of a sudden now they're like, ooh, I can see the benefits. So I think when you can get them to understand the value behind it, and how it's not just for business, they're open to it, and they have to be open to it. And we're a culture of change, so which is good.
I love how you've made it personal to them, though. I know one of the things we talk about a lot with our coaching clients is exactly what you've done. Help show real immediate value to your team. So instead of going in and talking about how much time they're going to save and how much more work they're going to be able to get done, and they're going to be going, oh, great, this just means I got to work harder. Give them
Mhm.
some quick wins that allow them to go, hang on, I actually can have a little more time. I can think a little bit more. I can maybe grab an extra cup of coffee or not feel quite so stressed at the end of the day, and let them have a personal win. I love how you did that even by saying, hey, take it home and try some things there. Have you seen that benefited, that the employees, that resonated more once they were able to do that on a more personal level?
Yeah, 100%. So like we have one girl that's kind of like culture coordinating stuff. Like she comes up with different ideas, right? And so she's into crafts and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I told her like start, using it at home, start using it for, building ideas with your crafting and stuff like that. And then, when she's coming up with culture days, like she's been able to, you know, use some of those things that she's doing at home and, it's just giving them more creative ideas. And I think when you have a creative mind, it just amplifies it.
Mm.
And I absolutely love that what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, and now we even have the technicians, right? So as you know, we have home service GPT, the custom
Yeah.
GPTs that we have going on. So we have the field guys using the GPTs that we made, and now when they're in the field, they're using it. So the sales guys are using it. So I think when you can get everybody seeing the benefits of it, it's really something,
Well,
and they love it.
I love how you've rolled it out to your teams to give them some tools, and how you've wrapped that through a custom GPT. If you're listening, by the way, and you're not familiar with that, a custom GPT is just where you train a version of ChatGPT on your own information. So, Travis, can you talk a little bit, without giving away the company secrets, can you talk a little bit about that custom GPT and how that's benefiting your techs in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, like for example, we have one that's a water treatment GPT, and the water treatment GPT is designed to, when they're out in the field, if there's a certain situations with, a water softener that they're
Mm-hmm.
currently working on that's not working, they're trying to figure out how to fix it. The water treatment GPT will go ahead and walk them through, what to look for. They can take a picture of the system. They can, it will give them the step-by-steps instructions. And then we have one for the well pump GPT. So if they're on a well pump job, it'll also be walking them through exactly the step by steps to fix it as well. So it's just a trained model that just makes their life easier instead of just trying to like go to Google and try to figure it out. It's right there on their phone. They can just go to the GPT and it's quick answers.
I know, because you and I've talked about this, how you built a lot of those, again, without
Mhm.
giving away company secrets. For those that are listening, going, how do you teach AI how to help with well drilling or things like that? What types of data are you sharing with it that allows it not only to understand the industry, but also understand the way you and your business do things to bring that more personal aspect in?
Sure. So when training the GPTs, being in the industry for so long, especially since I was like, 15, 16 years old, you learn so much over the years, like especially even on the pump side. And then when I tested it out, I just like to test it to see, okay, is this correct? Is this the right information that I fed it? And then when you bring it back and it says, oh my gosh, that is the correct answer, right? So I think just a combination of, and I also have some like different GPTs on there as well that I just want to make sure that it's the correct information, and it's been so helpful. And I love how the guys. Here's another thing too. Like majority of our guys, they're like in their 20s, 25, 30 years old, right? And, they are really into the AI world right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think having us like be open to it and adapting to this also gets them excited. And then all of a sudden now they're just, I don't know, they're just more on board with stuff. I don't know how to explain it.
I love that though. I mean, they're seeing, that was my next question. Are they seeing that? Are they adopting it and seeing the value in that when they use it? Are they seeing that it's a great tool that helps them?
Yes. Yeah, they really, really are. And that's what's nice is because when they get excited, everybody else gets excited, then they're telling their friends to come on board with our company as well. So yeah, it's just cool to see everybody coming up, and we have the technology, so why don't we just utilize it? AI is not going anywhere. So
No, I mean we know that very well. It's definitely not going anywhere. It's going to be here, and I think more and more we're seeing companies just like you've done, Travis, where you guys are not an AI company. You're not really even a technology company. Not to diss on the
no.
well drilling, but I mean well drilling's I shouldn't say that. At least I know the last time I had a well put in a couple years ago, it didn't look a whole lot different than what I remembered from 20 years ago. And if that's the case, to see you integrating that in very practical ways, I think is so cool because I believe, as you know from our conversations, that's going to allow any business that does that to lead your pack, to basically be leading up, not only because you're able to do a better job for your customers, but also because you're creating a better work environment for your team. You're giving them tools that make it easier to work for you as opposed to somebody else. And that makes that job more rewarding across the board.
Yep.
Curious, have you seen any negativity at all, any pushback that's come through? Has really been as smooth as it sounds?
It's as smooth as it sounds. Yeah, I haven't had any pushback at all. Everybody's been super excited about it, and they see the value in it. And I think when as a leader, when you get excited about change, because it starts at the top, right? Anytime, any type of change, it needs to have excitement or built around it. So I think if you can do the excitement, talk about the excitement, you as the leader, but then
Mm-hmm.
also go, with them, right? They're thinking about what's in it for me, and I'm thinking about how I can explain that to them in a way of how it's going to make their life better, and how they can get a lot of value from this. Um, it's less stress. It's less stress on my managers because they're not calling the managers all the time. So I think when you frame it in a way where it's almost like this is going to make your life so much better, they get excited, right? So it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of like you gotta bring that excitement to the team.
I
And
love
start, like
that.
I said, starts with leadership.
I'm curious, so you're second generation. Any pushback from your dad and the first generation crew as it's come to that? I'd be curious to hear what their perspectives are on all this.
Yeah. So I think I think sometimes when they've never been down that road, I don't think I can like. They're not going to understand it, and that's totally okay
Sure.
because they in that generation they just didn't they didn't use ChatGPT. That stuff wasn't around back then, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
it's no different than like like when we're back in the day, he just used yellow page advertising. That's pretty much all it was, right? They
Yep.
would just put an ad in the yellow pages and that was it, And now you can't just put an ad in the yellow pages and think the phone's going to ring off the hook. You have to be a little bit everywhere. You have to have, you know, AI. You got to be using Facebook. You got to be using, yard signs. You got to be using a little bit of everything. And I think with that is it's just a different mindset. So I don't really, when I talk to my dad about it, I don't like, well, why aren't you on board or whatever? It's almost like, I can't expect him to understand it because it's just a different world. Does that make
Sure.
sense? I mean,
Oh,
things are just
absolutely.
different.
Well, no, and I think that's what you're sharing there is really interesting and important because it is a different paradigm. It's so
Yeah.
different than where we talked. This morning I was having a conversation with just one of my coaching clients in my mastermind about just basic business stuff. And one of the things we were chatting with was, based on some things that have happened, he had a client leave and so he needs to replace some revenue. And, he's like, 10 years ago, this would have been easy. I would have picked up the phone, I would have made some calls, and I would have got another client. But it's changed. Things are different today. That same process
Yep.
doesn't work. And I think what you're describing really is the same thing. It's important for us to know, I think, as business leaders, that it's okay to be embracing some of these things. And it's okay when not everybody's maybe as excited about it as we are, because it's our job to lead them through that. As you said, AI is not going away. It's so, it's still so new. In fact, I mean, I don't think anybody's missed a lot yet, but I do think as we move throughout 2025 and into 2026, we're going to see a huge gap start being created between those businesses and leaders that implement AI and those that have still kind of drug their feet. I don't even know if many are really sticking their heads in the sand anymore, because it's just almost impossible, I think, to do that. But again, I may live in an echo chamber, so I think it's really cool as you do that. Now, you and I have chatted a little bit, and not to say anything out of school here, but about even possibly some new opportunities for you in business that are coming up because of the way you're embracing AI. Tell me just your personal perspective on how do you see AI possibly impacting your ability as an entrepreneur to create multiple revenue streams?
Yeah, I think there's so many opportunities with AI, not just with ChatGPT, but just creating like sources of income outside of just your regular job, right? So I think there's just, you got to be open to it, but I also think you need to focus on kind of one platform
Yep.
first. 'Cause I think there's so many tools out there, and it's so exciting, right? Because you want to try this one, you don't want to try this one, but I kind of like, focus on the one, learn it really really well, and then also I'll tell you what also I do, like even ChatGPT, like getting your wife involved if you have a significant other, teaching them stuff and helping them. I mean, my wife and I, we go through ChatGPT all the time, and whenever I learn something, I'll bring her along with me. And she's utilizing it in her work because she's a pharmaceutical sales rep. So she's trying to see how she can use it in her world as well. So I think when you have, in the relationship side, when you have the other person coming alongside with you, that's really fun too. I hope I answered your question, but I might have went
No,
down a rabbit
absolutely
hole
you
there.
have. No, absolutely you have. I appreciate that. And again, I think it's just one of the reasons I was so excited to chat with you is we haven't had a lot of opportunities and trainings to go into some depth. And I know you've been embracing it and seeing that. And of course, I'm biased. I love AI. I think that's, it's definitely where we're headed. And it's just so cool to see you embracing it. And what I loved in particular was you're creating tools that allow your team to leverage that as well, and making it so
Right.
abundantly clear to them how it does make their job easier. I really love that. I think so often we focus on how can I save time, and that's great, if we as the leader can save time, but it's even more exponentially beneficial when we can log in and get our team to save that time. If we can get them to save, you know, even 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day. If we've got 10 team members, now all of a sudden, oh my goodness, we've just put 5 hours or 5 man-hours together to allow that to work. And I think that's where it gets so exciting as we pull all that in. So no, it's
Yeah,
so
100%.
cool.
So I think with home service GPT, like I wanted to use it in our company first. But now when you said about kind of other streams, I think that's another avenue where I want to be able to help other contractors and
Hmm.
utilize home service GPT to help other people. And those GPTs, you can get those, and it's all set up at homeservicegpt.com. But it's really going to change a lot of people's lives and a lot of people that have home services.
So talk to me a little bit about that. Let's explain that to our audience who may not be aware of it. You've
Sure.
created some of these custom GPTs specifically tuned for people in home
Hmm.
services. Can you share a
Correct.
little bit about, I mean, that to me is one of the most amazing opportunities for you to take that knowledge you've gained and to be able to provide that. Can you talk to me a little bit about how do these GPTs help home service owners and their teams?
Yeah, 100%. So we have on the website, you'll see like there's ones that have like water treatment, there's one well pumps or stuff like that. And depending on what industry you're in, each one is trained in your industry. So if you're doing like we do pressure washing, right? So if you do pressure washing, there's a custom GPT trained for that as well. So it's instead of you trying to like, come up with it or trying to figure it out, or, it takes some time to build them out, as you know. But they're all pre-done for you. So I just think that, being able to have a tool like that really can speed up, installations and a lot of questions for your managers. And so that's kind of how it's set up right now. There's other really cool things coming down the pipeline for that as well, but it's coming soon, so you'll see.
And what I love about it though is it's easy to use tools that are applicable to them. So they're tuned in on what you need to do as a home services company, the pain points you're dealing with, the things your team's dealing with, and I love how you're leveraging that experience that you have in the industry and knowing and seeing that, especially as a second generation owner, and then being able to help others out by doing that. To me, that's just a super exciting. And it's a simple way for those home service companies to get engaged with AI and try it out without having to invest a lot of time, energy, and money, because they literally can take these predefined tools and start using them in their business. I mean, once they sign up, it literally, I mean, you're talking minutes, and they can start using these in the business, correct?
Correct. Yep. Yep.
No.
They can go ahead and just use it as soon as you get the GPT. You can start using it. It'll walk you through like how to use it, in the job sites and stuff like that. And it has stuff demos on there. We actually have someone that will actually talk and help you through it as well, just to get it set up. So we have a person on staff that will walk you through and help you as well if you need questions on it or anything like that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. That's fantastic. So talk to me a little bit, Travis, as a business owner who's implemented it. We've got a lot of business owners on here who are maybe just getting started, trying to figure that out. What advice would you have for them, having gone through this yourself, on what things that average business should do, let's just say in the first 3 months, first 90 days, to start implementing AI more deeply in their organizations? Any counsel, any advice there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to be excited about it. I think that if you already have a culture of change, that's crucial, right? And I think having that culture change is number one, and just ask them to be open to it, right? So I think if you can get your team open to it, you can show the value to it, and then you can walk them through. Like, I think it's not a good idea just to say, hey, we're going to try this. Like, do some demos with them, and like we call it running the play. Instead of role play, like run the play with them and see them actually doing it, right? You walking them through it, like, tell them how to do it, show them how to do it, have them do it, and then, they teach it back to you, right? And then you evaluate them, watch doing it. So I think if you can really explain the why behind it, create the value, and then walk them through the steps and have them do it, that's going to be the big thing right there. So you really need to have them actually do it, and then kind of teach it back to you. So that way they know that that they got it. I think that's a big thing too, right? And then just get everybody's buy-in on it. And yeah, I think that's the big thing right there. And then also, have it for your techs, but also have it for, your office staff. And, Mid-Journey, you could do Mid-Journey with pictures. You can do ChatGPT. There's just so many different tools out there, but start with one. I would say ChatGPT. GPT-5 just came out, as you know. But I do think that you just getting the team involved is not as bad as you think. I think they'd be more open to it.
Yeah, and I think your advice is especially good on the use one platform. I know we see, there's so many people, what's the perfect platform? From my perspective, I think, it depends. There's a lot of things, and that any AI tool can allow you to do by magnitudes more than you could do without that. As you started doing that, that's a common thing that entrepreneurs go, man, I got to test all these tools. Did you find that was valuable, or did you find that, as you mentioned, kind of picking one was the right path?
Yeah, that's a great question. As an entrepreneur, it's very easy to get distracted. So you will, you'll see this one product, and you're like, ooh, I got to try this. Or, you'll see this, you hear a podcast, and you're like, oh, I got to try this. And then all of a sudden now you're multi-switching so much in your brain. You're like, I got to try this, got to try. And there's so many things, but then obviously you get distracted. And I don't think I think that's a recipe for disaster. I think if you can just focus on the one thing right now, get that done, and you're like, plan it out on your 90-day plan. If you have a 90-day plan, put that on a 90-day plan and say, I'm just going to focus on this one AI tool. I want to get it down and I want to roll it out and teach everybody and just get everybody involved. And I think you can't get to a point where that entrepreneur brain where you're all over the place. That's not healthy either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's so common. As you take a look, being in the home services business and watching AI, what are some things you are excited about seeing maybe between now and the end of the year? We've got about 4 or 5 months left, 4.5 months or so left. What things are you excited about seeing that may impact your business and your team in a great way?
I think that when we're trying, especially even like the sales department, right? I think that using AI to help coach you and get better feedback of how you could maybe handle that objection. So say if you're in sales, right, and you're trying to close a job, use AI to say use ChatGPT, just put in there like, act as a salesperson and how could I have closed this job better? This is what I did. And walk me through some objections. Here's the objections that I had. Walk me through how I could have done that better on that sales call. Or maybe it's a booking. Maybe you're a CSR, right? And you're taking an inbound call, and then all of a sudden, you didn't book that call for any reason. You could literally just take the transcript of that call and put it into ChatGPT, and then all of a sudden it'll actually tell you maybe this is how you could have handled that better. So, I think utilizing like that, and as AI gets smarter and smarter, it's just going to get better. So I think just looking at things with the CAT scan perspective of how to keep up to date on it, keep learning with it as it develops. Reach out to Jonathan. That's what I would do. He knows his stuff.
I appreciate that, Travis. I do. There's so much to keep up on you. There's no doubt. And the keeping track of that is important. I was just on a podcast, somebody else's podcast before we started this. And one of the questions they asked me is, how do you deal with the overwhelm? I'd love your perspective on that. There are so many things changing in that. How do you deal with the overwhelm of sometimes just wanting to throw your hands up and go, I don't know where to go because there's so much information as it comes to AI?
Yeah. Like I said, I think you got to take a step back, right? I mean, you don't want to get to a point where you burn yourself out with it as well. I honestly do think, though, what helps is, I've taken a lot of your courses and stuff, and I absolutely love continuing to learn and grow with it. That's one thing I love about what you do, Jonathan, is that, as AI gets better and stuff like that, you are constantly learning how it's getting better, and you're figuring it out. So I think for me is you got to get around the right people, and you're definitely the right person for AI.
Thank you.
And I think if you can continue to stay in the world, keep learning, either if it's one thing, like sometimes even with your stuff that you put out, it's just, and it's so funny because there's so many tools, but it's almost like when you bring your tools out, it's like perfect timing. I don't know how you do it, but it's almost like every time I'm trying to run into something that I'm dealing with, it's like, hey, I got an email from Jonathan, and it's perfect timing on your tool. And it's just a game changer. So I don't know if I answered your question correctly or not, but I do know that you still want to be involved with it, but you don't want to overwhelm yourself, I guess.
No, I think that's really good. One of the things I talked about on the podcast I was just on is I think as business leaders, we don't, they talk about the point of the plow, being on the point of the plow sometimes. And I think with AI, that's candidly the wrong place to be because things are changing so rapidly that you could literally spend all day just keeping up on stuff. I know I do spend all day on it and I still miss things that are happening. But I think as entrepreneurs, if we take one step back from that and go, okay, I don't need to be the point of the plow. ChatGPT 5 came out last week. There's been lots of drama, good and bad about it and everything else. As a business owner, candidly, at the end of the day, not much of that really impacts you. You can kind of just let it go and say, all right, I heard they had a new model. We'll see what happens. And not have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about, is Gemini better this week, or is Claude better this week, or is ChatGPT better this week? the comparison I use, and I'd love to get your feedback on this, Travis, is I think it's a lot like picking a vehicle when it comes to picking an AI engine. If you and I are going to go meet and have lunch, I've got my favorite vehicle that I'm going to drive, and you've probably got yours. But at the end of the day, if we both walked into the airport at a rental car company and we were driving to meet between airports, it wouldn't really matter what brand vehicle we got or anything else. All we really needed was a reliable vehicle to get us there. Now, we might have our preferences, but the differences between a reliable, reasonably new vehicle that gets us where we need to go safely and the perfect vehicle is not a very big difference. There is a difference, but it's not big. And I think AI models is the same way. You may prefer one model over another, but all of them are so good that we're getting that 80 to 90% of the way to where we need to go by just picking one. And that last little bit ends up taking a lot of time and effort and sometimes a lot of money that just isn't often worth it.
Correct. Yeah, I think, like I said, going with one tool is definitely the way to go. But I also do think if you have a certain situation, it's almost like you've got a library, right? I have a whole bunch of books behind me.
Yep.
And if you've got one particular topic that you really want to focus on, that you really need, then you're going to go to a particular book to learn about that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So and in some ways like that. So I guess, but with ChatGPT, there's just so much data, and for whatever problem you're having, it solves so many of those issues that you could run into. But I do think, like I said, I think focusing on one is definitely, and then just as it continues to grow and get better, you just learn with it. Yeah, you just keep figuring out, and then you got to share it with your team. Like a lot of people, they don't do that. I think they'll learn it, and then they won't. It's almost like the thing. It's like, what if I train them and they leave? What if you don't train them and they stay?
Yeah, that's
right?
even better.
So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's great. Right. So what I'm saying is, I think it's so important to bring your team up with you and have them get excited and have them learn as you're learning. And it's so fun when everybody else is learning with you and you're not just trying to figure it out yourself. I think that's another cool thing to do with your team.
Really good advice. Well, Travis, I so appreciate your insights on business and all that. I cherish your faith that you've got as well, and that's a basis of where you're at. To me, I love seeing that and well-grounded. Last question, not related to business at all, but I love to find out when I'm talking to other Christ followers, thoughts on AI and faith. Is there a point in which they meet? Are they always to be separate? There's no right or wrong. I'm just purely curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I absolutely am so grateful for what Jesus has done in my life. If it wasn't for Jesus, I don't know what I'd do. I've had
Amen.
cancer.
I'm with you.
I've had Crohn's disease. They can't find any cancer. They can't find any Crohn's disease. Jesus has healed me. I've seen miracle after miracle from what he's done. So as far as that, I just think that, God, he gives us tools. And there's tools that help. There's GPTs that, there's one that's got, Ask Jesus. I'm sorry you've seen that. Got, it can have information. It can help you get information for the Bible. I've seen pastors use it to help them have sermons, right?
Absolutely.
Like how they can help with that. So, there's a lot of tools that can help. So, but, ultimately for me, Jesus is the only way. So having that foundation with him and having your faith grounded in him, that's what it's all about. I mean, I can't tell you enough for what he's done in my life. And if you're not following the Lord, then, it's not hard. I mean, we've all been down tough situations and we've all fallen short, but he is the one that'll get you through it. He's the only peace that you'll have. And, and then building a culture around that faith as well is huge as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. I couldn't agree with you more. I find that AI is a tool, and I talk to a lot of Christians that are in different perspectives as it comes to AI. And my belief, right, wrong, or indifferent, is AI is a tool. And as I shared with somebody the other day, my biggest fear might be I'd hate to stand in front of Christ someday and have him go, so I gave you this great tool to use and you were scared and didn't do it. Can you tell me why? No, the tool isn't good or evil. The tool is just
Right.
in our hands to be used. And I know I believe in, obviously, most people watching this podcast know I believe in using it because it's a great tool. So, Travis, thank you for sharing. If people are interested in just learning more about you and your business, what's the best way for them to connect with you, Travis?
Sure, absolutely. They can actually check me out on my email. You can email me at tmong@drinkquality.com. Or, yeah, they can check me out online. But there's also a podcast I have. It's called The Purpose Driven Entrepreneur. That I talk about faith, that I talk about relationships and, business as well. So they can listen in on that as well. So, yeah, I'm just very grateful. Thank you and honored to be on here to talk to you. I mean, this is a huge, huge honor.
Well,
So
thank you for
grateful.
sharing.
Thank
It's
you, man.
been great. It has been fantastic getting to know you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. It's been again, I love seeing people take action in fantastic ways, and it's so cool. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Travis, again, thank you for your time. As our audience, whether you're watching or listening, I want to thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you. We would cherish your feedback and let us know what you think of the episode. Let us know if you've got any suggestions. We would love to hear those. And with that, we will see you on the other side. Thanks, everybody, and make it a great day.